Welcome to this week's Gospel Reflection, where we're looking at the parable of the sower from Mark's Gospel chapter 4, the first 20 verses, and it's also recorded in Matthew's Gospel chapter 13, the first 9 verses. Now, regular listeners to this series of reflections will realise that twice in the last year or so I've covered both these passages looking at the parable of the sower, and you can find the links to those reflections in the comments or description below. Now, rather than repeat myself, I decided to go and visit my club brother in the South Wales Charter, Rick, because for him, the parable of the sower is a really pivotal story in his life of faith. And here he explains why.
One of my earliest memories, I must have been 7, 8 years old. We used to get sent off on a Sunday morning for Sunday school. And we used to go to this lovely church, St Anne's, and we'd mess around. You know, that's what you do in Sunday school, you mess around. And this one day, I heard the story, and it was the parable of the sower. I remember all the way home thinking, how cool. Because the Bible, even at 8 years old, you know the Bible is a revered and sacred book. It's the book of books. And I was just amazed that there was this story about this humble farmer and just going about his daily chores, and I thought it was really cool, and it played on my mind for ages. It never left me. I used to think, I wonder what it means, you know, and I remember one day we were in geography, and I thought, I bet it represents, you know, God's talking about all the different countries in the world, and some are dry and arid and some are wet, and I convinced myself, yeah, that's what it is. It's a metaphor for the world that God created and all the different regions. Well, this went on for years. It never left me completely. And when I was about 14, I stayed with friends, and in the room they gave me, there was a Bible on the bedside table, and I thought, I wonder if it's a proper one and it's got my story in it, you know, as if there'd be a different one. And sure enough, I turned to it, and there it was, just as I remember it. And then 1971, I joined the army, and the first thing they give you is one of these, and it's a really old translate, 1971 Bible, New Testament, and it's still a little bit in the old style of writing, you know, where there's biblical words. And I mean, I couldn't wait to get to my room and check that my story was there. I just found it laborious. I found reading it laborious. There were so many words you'd have to look up and think, what's he saying here? But anyway, I was chuffed. Got my own Bible, my first ever Bible, and it's got my story in it. So 51 years I've had that.
So, young bloke, you joined the army and then you got into the bike scene as well. So tell us about that.
I became aware I was a bit different. I loved bikes, but there was always times when I just felt compromised. I either wanted to go off nicking or stealing petrol or beating the local guys up in the next town. Just never sat well with me. I'm not a saint, you know. I've made bad decisions and poor judgments like anybody else, but to cold-heartedly, cold-bloodedly go out with that in mind just didn't sit with me at all. And I never questioned it. It don't sit well with me, and that's the way it is.
So many years later, you're still into the bikes, and you bumped into us on the road, and we got a chance to hang out a bit together. Tell us how you felt about that first of all.
So fast forward 40 years, hanging around with you guys was the first time I felt like I was wearing a pair of shoes that fit properly. Everything, I never felt compromised, never felt uncomfortable, never felt embarrassed, which surprised me, you know, because a lot of times we were stopping and praying. And
so in 2009 we invited you to come as a guest of ours out to our Euro run in Finland, and you had a conversation with a member there that solved a bit of a mystery to the parable of the sower for you. Tell us about that.
I came out to Finland and it was awesome, and then the Saturday night, we were all in the cabins on the Friday night, and Friday night's always a bit strange because everybody's travelled. And then the Saturday evening, I walked over to the clubhouse, and Ula was sat outside. I didn't know who he was then, but he was sat outside, and I'd just got a plain, similar jacket on with no tags or badges or anything. He said, "What brings you here then?" And I said, I've been hanging around a couple of years, and I just wanted to see in depth more what goes on. "You be careful," he said. "God's word's a seed, and once that's planted," he said, "there's no escape." And I just thought, you idiot, you stupid fool. And I sat thinking about it all night then.
So you're in Finland, you've made a decision that you want to follow Christ. You prayed with some club members there. I mean, would you say there'd been a light bulb moment for you?
It really was that day that Ula said, "God's word's a seed." It really was that day. It was such a weird, strange day. I mean, I didn't hesitate. I knew where I was going after that.
Why do you think the parable of the sower is a story that's really stayed with you?
What can be more important than the story of where it starts for you or anybody else? I think it's simply because it was the seed. The seed was planted, and there's not anything in the Bible about how some of the seeds can sit for 40 years. But I truly believe, and certainly this last few weeks thinking about it, God tapped me on the shoulder, said, "I want you." And I remember you asked me to lead at Zach's one night, and I gave my testimony, and it was pointed out to me that if I'd read on past verse 9, the answer was there anyway. And I felt foolish, and then I thought, that weren't meant for me. You know, this is my journey, and there's no point fighting it. There's no point arguing with it or worrying about, I could have done this, I should have done that. This is, if you truly believe that God's in control, this is the path He's put me on.
Does the story of the parable of the sower still teach you something new?
I don't read it the same as I did a week ago. It's just you asking me to think about this for the last few days. It's opened up so many other things, and I think the important one is that over this 51 years, the words of Jesus remain exactly the same, and I've realised how important that is. You can mess with everything else, but you can't change the word.
How would you encourage others to maybe explore the Bible, or maybe certain stories within the Bible that have followed them around throughout their lives?
If you don't open the Bible, go somewhere where they do it for you. The turning point for me was being amongst people who believed, where there was somebody there who can tell you what the story means. If you're going to surround yourself like I did with people who just want to go hooniganing and drinking and whatever, then that's all you're going to get out of life. You've got to put yourself in the position. And I always had an image of Christians that is not what I've found to be true. And I think a lot of people also have that same mental image of the man knocking your door, going to save you and tell you about Jesus. And I think that's why we need to be out and showing people that there's another way. And still follow the word, still follow the truth. But there's another way. You haven't got to put a suit on. You haven't got to try and transform everybody you meet. You've just got to show them the way by how you are and what you do.
So now, as a Christian and as a biker, what does being part of God's Squad mean to you?
Everything. I've certainly become a better husband, a better father. I hope a better role model for my son. There is so much opportunity even in the smallest way, to make a difference in somebody's life. That's huge. That is monumental.
So when you think about your life and we think about the parable of the sower, is there a particular part of the field in this story where you feel the seed fell for you?
There's not a mention there where some fell and was in the frozen tundra and 40 years later the ice cap melted and the seed had chance to germinate. It's not in there at all, is it? But it was always going to get there. It was just a matter of how much rubbish and crap you got to go through to get there. I don't regret a minute, you know. I honestly believe I'm getting to where I'm meant to be. That's all you can do. That's all you can ask.
What keeps you going, Rick?
It's the people. People have inspired me so much, and I don't want to name them. That wouldn't be fair. But there are so many inspirational people in this club, and a lot of them are not even aware of it. They're just going along, minding the business and doing the business. And if you watch them, it's just inspirational. They've got their head in the right place. Nothing phases them. God's in control. Get on with it. And I love that. I love seeing that. And I just think, I want that. I want to be that.
How can you approach the Bible or read the Bible if you find it a bit daunting?
If you don't open the Bible, go somewhere where they do it for you. Because one of the things I think you really have cracked at Zach's is that you can open it and it not be scary, it not be like when I went to Sunday school, it was fire and brimstone. You were going to hell, and you know, if you don't become a Christian, if you don't do this and you don't do that, you're going to hell. And to bring it down to a level where it becomes a life choice, I think, rather than it was a threat when I was younger, really, and it's more of a life choice now, which I think people are more likely to take. People don't respond well to threats and you will do this and you must do that.
How would you encourage others to take this same road of faith in Christ that you have and still do?
The benefits are not tangible, you can't touch them, but to know you're loved, to know you're worthy, and to know you have a purpose even in your worst times, and just that is huge, you know. But you've got to accept it. All you've got to do is reach out. That's all you've got to do.